Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's December 30th, and right now we're looking at the combination of Doppler radars here. We've got some light precipitation, kind of hit and miss out there going on. It's a weak frontal system moving up over the area. So we'll look at that in a little bit of detail here, and we'll look at what's upcoming here because we've had some interesting model runs off into the extended, and I'll show you some of that. Some colder air is going to try to get down across some of the western USA here, and some of it may spill out over the Gulf of Alaska and get us more active storm pattern here as we go in through the week plus period. We'll dive into that, and I'll show you that here when what I'm talking about in a moment. Here's looking at the infrared satellite imagery. This storm off here is going to dive south of California, even out there, and we're going to get a little bit of a break here, and we may even get foggy here as we go through the early portion of next week. More on that here in a moment, but let's take a look at the European. This is yesterday afternoons, and we're going to look at the extended forecast here for a bit, and this is that frontal system that impacted California and the one that's bringing that light precipitation across Pacific Northwest as we speak, but it is mainly weakening as it does, so you can kind of see it falling apart. It's not progressive, just kind of hanging out here and dissipating. Then the next storm system dives mostly down towards California, but this could bring us another round of precipitation here as we go through the midweek period, maybe to help clear off some of that fog that forms maybe on Monday or Sunday. We'll see how that goes. But then you can see we start to get this cooler troughing trying to drive down over the area. That's not too favorable for snowfall down into the lowlands for Western Washington or anything like that, or down into Oregon or BC yet, but it could bring some mountain snows with it. And if we extend a little bit off into the future here, you can see we start to get this troughing here going back across the Gulf of Alaska, and this would be much more interesting here, but you can see the problem with that because we're looking at, this is well over 10 days out at this point here, so that troughing out there is still kind of a fantasy forecast, but the models have been hinting at this. They've just been bouncing back wildly with just how this is going to unfold. Now, taking a look so far, average precipitation for the month of December, we're doing pretty good here across Western Washington. Some areas are below average across some of the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, but Eastern Washington, Western Washington, some of Western Oregon aren't doing too bad, and this goes through December 29th. You can see, again, as I mentioned yesterday, Montana well below average, and portions of Idaho are also well below average as well for this for the December time period. And a dense fog advisory, and this is Pendleton National Weather Service had this out this morning here. So if you're running into the foggy conditions, you guys know what to do. Just slow down, don't stop, and turn on your low beams out there. And we could be having some foggy conditions exist on into the early portions of next week as well. Now, looking at significant wave height. So the good news here is that we are going to calm the wave action down. You can see that we really start to relax things as we go on to the day Sunday here. And then if we scroll out into the future, maybe a little bit of a bump here as we go on into the midweek period, but nothing too crazy. You can see the big wave action moving down towards California there. And then as we go through the extended, we might start to get a little bit of an uptrend here if those storms do develop and we start bringing them back towards the Pacific Northwest. You can see out at the Gulf of Alaska starting to get active again here on yesterday afternoon's European run. So here's looking at the NAM12Z run here, and this is that light precipitation coming up over the region here. This should be wrapping up as we go through the day today. Maybe hang on a little bit longer here across some of the Northwest interior, and of course the Cascades. And as this pushes off to the east, you can see it looks like a convergent zone kind of kicking off here all the way on in through Saturday night into very early Sunday morning. Then we get that break. We're going to turn the component offshore a little bit here and maybe get things a little bit foggy here as we go on into Monday. And this is looking at those winds here. But let me back this up all the way back to where we are right about now, and you can see the gradient relaxes here. We really reduce these wind speeds, and then we start to bring the component offshore again here, and those light winds can mean some dense fog at this time of year. We'll see how that goes. We'll take a look at that again in more detail tomorrow. Taking a look at the European 24-hour precipitation total in inches. So we're looking at this next system here, again, mainly targeting California, but you can see it does bring some precipitation, nice amounts across some of the Olympics and Vancouver Island, but not much for Seattle, Western Washington, maybe some of the coastal range here as well, but it's not a huge precipitation maker. Again, best dynamics into California. And then we look a little bit further out, maybe a little bit of a better chance here as we go on in through the next week time period here. And the European starts to bring some sinister stuff back into the Pacific Northwest. That troughing sets up over the Gulf of Alaska. Look at this atmospheric river feature showing up at about 174 hours out versus yesterday afternoon anyway. And look at that feature. And this is, again, a running 24-hour total precipitation total. And if we continue to scroll, the European was throwing some pretty good storms at the Pacific Northwest. I mean, look at some of these totals down across some of Oregon, Vancouver Island, Washington, some rain shadowing going on across the Puget Sound there. But yeah, continue to scroll on and just look at that precipitation flowing into the region. But we have huge model disagreement on how this is going to unfold onto the extended forecast, as the European just kind of wants to bombard us here, but it's been changing so dramatically run to run. Now we're looking at North America here. Here's Alaska. We got Washington and Oregon. We're looking at 5,000 feet, 850 millibars here. And if I put this into motion, you'll see that a lot of this activity initially is moving down into California. There goes their next storm midweek coming up here. And probably the next storm again, it's going to have better dynamics for California. But we do get this cooler trough here, so we are going to cool down a bit. And then as we go through the extended forecast here, you can see that Gulf of Alaska troughing gets going here, pull some cold air out over, and that's why it was showing those atmospheric rivers and some active storm pattern pointed at the Pacific Northwest here. So yeah, a lot to work out with that, but you're probably hearing a little bit of chatter about things turning a little bit colder here across the western USA, so just trying to nip that action in the bud. Here's the GFS. We put this into motion. We see these storm systems kind of dropping down to the south here. California again as we go through the midweek period here. Not much going on. Then we potentially bring a better system here on in through next weekend. But again, the better dynamics might be down towards California as we start to bring this trough across the region. We need a very specific trajectory for the cold air across British Columbia, off the coastline and back into the area if we want to even dream about the lowland snow. And we're just not seeing that in these model runs just yet. Not that it can't happen, but you know, we'll continue to watch it. As you can see, the GFS does show us, maybe pick it up, some of the storm action here as we go through the extended forecast also. And this is looking at maybe a little bit more of a coherent map to look at. This is Alaska, Washington, Oregon. Again, this is 5,000 feet, about 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. If I put this into motion, you can see the storm targeting California right there. That's the midweek one. And then that's our next potential precipitation maker here as we go through the end of the week coming up. But again, the best dynamics probably headed for California here. But then we start to look like we might get a little bit more active here. Both the European and the GFS have been showing it at times. But again, we'll break that down day by day. It's no point at all getting caught up in those details just yet. And looking at total snow, 10-to-1 ratio, 50th percentile here. So this is ensemble. This is not a cherry-picked look at the snowfall potential here. This is yesterday afternoon's European run here. I just want to scroll out and show you that we do have some potential for building up some snow across the higher terrain. I know we've been hearing the chatter here about the lack of snowfall across the higher terrain. So we do have some hope on through the extended forecast. Cross your fingers. Let's hope this trends. But looking at the GFS, it's this last night's run, the 16-day precipitation anomaly, you can see it does show a deficit here for a lot of the Pacific Northwest. But again, that's bound to change. Here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation probability. ALEC does have us above average through January 8th. We'll see how that trends. And here's 8 to 14 day as well. I've been updating that, and it's still above average. We'll see how that goes. Here's the 8 to 14 day again, and it does show some of that colder air starting to show up in the extended runs here also. So this goes all the way through January 12th here. And this is the average temperature here, departure from average. This is so far December, so you're not dreaming if you've been thinking that it's been warmer than normal. You can see the entire West, especially places like Montana, some places of Washington and Oregon have also been, you know, a solid 6 degrees above average here, and a very widespread area here has been 3 to 6 degrees above average. So anyway, yeah, we'll just continue to watch that extended forecast. You know, we're kind of in a lull here. We're getting that split flow going on. California is seeing the action, but that's bound to change at some point here. And you saw both the GFS and the European were hinting at that potential storm track return through the extended forecast. We'll continue to break that down day by day. We'll try to get some confidence in that forecast. We'll do this again tomorrow. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. I am feeling a little bit better. I was running 102 fever yesterday. I'm starting to sweat now, so I think the fever might be starting to break, hopefully. Cross my fingers there, and I'll be out here for a few more days. Hopefully I can enjoy those. But anyway, hope you guys are liking the videos. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.